Hey, thank you for joining us. Welcome to Rewind with Ellen. I'm your host, Ellen J. Winjero.
And I'm her co-host, Ro Carter. Welcome.
Welcome. We are both dressed in white. That was not planned. We sometimes do that. That's just how simpatico we are, I think. Or not. I don't know. Uh, how are you, Ro? What's going on? How was your week?
I'm good. It's hot in New York City, ladies and gentlemen. It is. I'm sure it's hot in DC, but it's really hot this week. But it's nice. There was a storm that happened on the East Coast, so a lot of rain, but nothing too bad out here. But I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm good too. Yeah, we've been having heat advisories for the past 3 days. We are in mid 90-degree weather, so outside is not seeing me for a bit. I had my share of festivities this past weekend, so I think I'm good for 2 weeks.
All right,
Um,
all right.
but I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, so let's get this party started. Today, we are kicking it about the Beckett film, which stars John David Washington, and it's directed by Ferdinando Cito Filomarino, and it follows an American tourist played by John David Washington as Beckett. He's vacationing in Greece, and he becomes the target of a manhunt after a devastating accident. John David Washington is popping right now, rightfully so. He's all over the place in the best way ever. I enjoyed this film, and I was actually looking forward to having this conversation with you from a female male perspective because I read a bunch of reviews online, majority of them men, and it was not good. They were mixed reviews. I won't say they weren't good, but they were mixed, and I didn't understand why. But then after giving it some thought, from a female perspective, we're a lot more emotionally tied to Beckett's plight in this film, where I feel like dudes are just looking for action and they don't care about everything else. Some dudes, you might be a little different in that sense, which I appreciate. So I liked this film. I liked how relatable it was, especially it being an action or a drama thriller for a chick. I don't know that I've ever really felt or said that I feel like an action thriller is relatable, and that's mainly due to John David's character, Beckett, being an ordinary man thrust in an extraordinary situation. And I walked away from this feeling like, okay, should I ever be put in that situation, I might have to think about what Beckett did and apply that tenacity and that dedication to make it out alive. Yeah, so before we dive deep, what were your initial thoughts?
So I understand your reaction, and reading comments and people's views on the film. I think it's because of what John David Washington has been putting out for us, right? So I wish the order was, Malcolm and Marie, Beckett, and then Tenet. Tenet set us up now that when we see him like in a situation, it's like, let's go. It's like his father now, Equalizer. That's all you see is him ready to do hands. So I think that's why we were kind of, most males are like, oh, we're taking this a twist. What's going on? Is he going to be able to do it? It kind of reminded me of The French Connection, with a little splash of The Fugitive and Taken into one. The French Connection with Gene Hackman back a long time ago. So he's just trying to find his way. And so relatable character, yes. As a black man, I've gone overseas many times, and you should always know where your embassy is, just in case. And also make a copy of your passport and email it to yourself, so just in case you need it. This is how many times I've traveled, or as many times I've lost my passport abroad. But that's a whole nother,
right?
Yeah, it's a whole nother episode. But I think that was the transition was hard for people that have become fans now of John David Washington. It's like, oh, he's become an action star, but then he dials it back in, right? And sometimes you don't even plan that, right? The movies were all supposed to come out at certain times, and sometimes because of COVID or this or that, they come out, and you're like, oh, now I've seen this actor one way, and then another movie comes out, oh, I'm seeing him another way, and then a totally different movie comes out, I'm like, wow. And so since Black Klansman, he's had range, and now you really got to see his range with his movies out on Netflix. So I really enjoyed the film.
Yeah, I mean, on Netflix right now, he has what, 3 films? He has
Mhm.
Monster with Jeffrey Wright and Jennifer Hudson. He has Beckett, and then of course Malcolm and Marie. So he is booked and busy, as he should be. I think he's a really good actor. I think his emotional and physical reactions in this film were genuine, right? Going back to the relatability of a character and feeling like you can connect with him based on how he's responding emotionally, especially it being a male character. I feel like Beckett delivered emotion in a way that, I mean, I was in tears um, throughout this film, but more specifically at the end, which I'll talk about later. I mean, this man, and this is a spoiler alert show, so it is what it is. So, you know, when you think about the guilt one feels when you are the reason the love of your life dies in a car accident, that alone would
Ugh.
fuel me to stay alive and figure out what the hell is going on, right? Because, you know, and what I loved about how they laid out this film is that the first 13 minutes, it's essentially a different movie. It's a love story, right? And so we get to see the love that he really had for his girlfriend, played by Alicia Vikander, and her character is April. And I like that they didn't really like put it in action how he loved her. It was all in the way that he looked at her. Just those long lingers, like you could feel the love between them. So for her to die the way she did, and
Ugh.
he was at the cause of it, oh my God. If ever there is motivation to stay alive and to fight to stay alive, I think that's it. Also coupled with the fact that, you know, there's this sort of like, you know, pseudo conspiracy that we don't really know what it's tied to. So not only is he trying to, you know, deal with guilt, but now people are after him and trying to kill him. So I need to figure out what's going on. I love that it was filmed in Greece. I think Greece is a beautiful place. Um, and I thought it was interesting how the film sort of started in the outskirts of Greece, like sort of like the unknown. And then as the film goes on, it sort of zeroes into the city, into the center of the city as he goes towards figuring out what is going on. So from the unknown to the known, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. Also, feeling for his character, he never had time to deal with his tragedy
Mm,
because all these things happen later. So he's just like, I'm like feeling for him, like, man, can I just get a moment to like deal with my girl? I lost my
mhm.
girl, the love of my life. Oh, the phone call to her parents. I
Right.
just envision that, like calling, not even your wife, it's your girlfriend. I guess they know, because the way they were so calm in the conversation too, is everything okay? We need to come down there. What's going on? So the trust was there, which was great. But I would never want to make that phone call to anyone, let alone my significant other, to
Right.
tell her parents that she's gone. And I don't even know if she's really gone because I haven't seen the body, right? I just know what I saw, and it didn't look good. And
Mm.
also, am I in a dream? Because half the movie you're thinking, well, he went off the side of the cliff, but was that part of a dream? He wakes up last minute. You don't know for so like at least about a half an hour to an hour in the movie. At least for me, I didn't know whether it was a dream sequence or wow, this is really going on right now. This is his life, and now he just has to figure it all out.
I thought you and I chatted about this last night, and we both agreed on we wish Boyd Holbrook's character and the officer, the policeman's character, wouldn't have been as obvious in terms of something shady was going on. But then, if they hadn't been obvious, how would that have affected the rest of the film? Right? Would it have prolonged it? Like, did it really serve anything? And so maybe, maybe they needed to be obvious to us, not so much to Beckett's character. Now, for me, I knew in that police station right after that accident, I knew that officer was shady. Just again with the lack of urgency, but then you brought up a good point about that in terms of overseas and how foreigners
Yeah,
were.
lost in translation. So sometimes, um, even in America, you're just treated, differently, whether it be in a precinct or in a hospital, especially after an accident. So there's more concern or you're okay. And so I watched that scene again there's the younger officer and the female officer that they showed that concern as of, hey, this is what happened, but we can't do anything because the coroner has left for the night. So just relax, sir. Just go back to your room. We'll take care of you. But then when the other officer comes in, that's when you kind of feel something's not right in this film. Something's going down. And so, note to self: if you see something, don't say anything. Just
keep it to yourself.
Keep it to yourself. Just worry about yourself first. And then when you leave and you're back home in the States, then you start telling people what really happened.
Because you don't know who the heck to trust.
No,
right?
not at all. You're all alone.
You would think going to the embassy, it's as safe as it gets, only to get there and realize, and again, Beckett, I don't know that Beckett knew right off the bat that Holbrook's character was shady, but I knew the minute Beckett sat, again, the lack of urgency from this guy. You're supposed to be an American embassy person, and so you're supposed to just be as riled up as I was. And he just was like, it is what it is.
Or like,
okay.
Why are we leaving to go back outside? I'm not going back outside. I'm not talking to anybody. I just made it all the way here. That's it.
I'm not going back outside.
I'm done. Listen, honestly, sorry to cut you off, but the energy he had to keep fighting, because I quit like halfway through the film. I'll be honest with you. I was like, I don't know if I could have made. I mean, I like her, I love her, but I don't know if I could make it through the whole film for you, baby girl. I don't know. It was a tough one.
I'm gonna need you to make it through. I'm gonna need you to make it through and fight for the love of your wife, because you did fall asleep at the wheel, right?
That's true, though. You are, yeah, all right. That's true. You do owe me. You do owe me at least to find out what happened. All right, that's true. You did fall asleep.
You owe me the fight. You owe me the fight. And so this film is it's a dramatic film. It's a tragic film. It's an action film. It's a survival film. It's a lot of things in one. And again, I feel like John David Washington pulled it off. What else? And so, yeah, I mean, going back to Greece and the decision to shoot this in Greece, and I'm thinking back to a conversation I had with the director, Ferdinando Filomarino, and he was big on the landscape, right? And just the openness of a rural area, and then kind of going, zeroing back into the city. Because this could have happened in so many different places, right? And let's not forget, this manhunt sort of synopsis, it's been done 1,000 times before, right? If you've seen one manhunt film, you've seen it all. But this was unique to me as a woman, right? But again, going back to something I said in the beginning, I don't know that I've ever been emotionally tied to a character the way that I was with Beckett. And you and I talked about this yesterday about Vicky Creep's role. She played Lena, the two female characters that helped Beckett. And so do you think that do you think if the kid wasn't a part of this plot, that they would have helped him being a Black man in a foreign country?
Not in Greece. Nope. Nope. Not in Greece. Paris, I've been to London, not in Greece.
Not in Greece.
Not in Greece. Not in Greece.
Okay.
Also, to go to the landscape, and you guys should definitely check out her interview with the director. And he was talking about that, and he's like, that really changes the movie, right? So, because if you just give him point A to point B, but because there's such a terrain that he has to go through, you're really invested in this character getting to safety. It's like, man, I don't know if I can make it. And then you forget, when you're losing all that blood, your temperature drops too, but also the night drops as well. So the layers of clothes to survive, to wake up in the morning, to still keep fighting and try to find your way and hike through all these woods. You have no idea where you're going, but just like, hey, I got to keep on going down into the village, and just trying to find people to help you out, but without leaving a trace. And that's how the cops keep on finding him. It's like on the train, I was like, damn, man, what's he got a beacon on his body? Like,
that was a scary scene. Like, I was not expecting that cop to just come like walking past his window. I'm thinking he's good. At least he's going to make it where he needs to go without any trouble. But then, all types of trouble sort of come up in that train. And I was just going to say something and I lost my train of thought. The close-up shots are what kind of got me. There were moments where the camera would zoom into John David's face, And then it would zoom back out and we would be able to see everything he was seeing, right? And I thought that was a very cool way for the director to sort of pull the viewer in and make us part of the character. And I don't know, again, if that's something I've paid close attention to in other movies.
With him or just other movies in general?
Other movies in general.
Okay.
Right? Just I keep going back to the relatability component, and why I felt like I empathized with his character. There were so many elements that allowed me to do that, from his acting to the way this was shot to the sound the dog made when it was shot, when it died, right? But it didn't show what happened to the dog, but you can hear what happened to the dog. So then that's another emotional connection there with, like, why the dog, right?
Or even the old guy that helps him, right? And he's like, oh,
Yes.
the guy breaks in. You're like, oh, man. It's just like all this collateral damage that was unnecessary. And it's like anybody he touches or goes near. And then, when he escapes and then he goes to the embassy and he finds the ladies again, I'm like, I was fearful that, wow, all these people are going to get killed now as well, because anybody he touches or encounters, they wind up getting killed by the cops.
And there's no one he could trust. Even the people along the way who he thought were helping him, somehow the cops found them and they ratted them out, but that just added to the action.
And you stick out like a sore thumb, being the only brother in Greece. It's like, did you see the guy? Oh, yeah, he went that way.
And then gradually throughout the film, he just begins to look even more disheveled, even more bloody, even just more he stood out in such a crazy way that I don't know, if I was in Greece, I'd have been like, yep, he went that way. He looks suspicious.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly. Like, you mean the brother covered in blood? Yeah, he over there.
He's that way. I don't know whose blood that is. Two things that I found to be super dope was, you remember the cliff scene when he had to jump off of a cliff? Yo. So
that's the fugitive moment. See what I did? That's the fugitive moment.
When you think about the beginning of the film, when him and his girlfriend are taking pictures near the ruins, and he's sort of scared to step down and join her. When you think about that character, that moment, fast forward to when he has to jump off the cliff, it didn't even take him 3 seconds to think about it, right? So you kind of see him sort of, break down his barriers of fear as well, and kind of go through these crazy moments to survive. So when you think about that jump from the cliff, he had to do what he had to do to get away from that crooked ass cop. Then fast forward to the end when he had to jump off of that garage. Do you remember that?
Okay, so I was like, really? I would have almost kind of liked if they didn't time it right in a way. I was like,
what do you mean?
He landed perfectly on the car, and I was like, that's a 99%, 1 out of 100 chance of you getting that exactly right, and then getting up from that. But at that point, he's like, I'm gonna do whatever I got to do to end it, and then you forget about the child.
There's a whole kidnap in this movie. Right? Talk about
that's
right.
There's another movie going on. Yeah, there's another movie going on, by the way.
Right. There's a whole other movie going on. And so the reason John David's character, Beckett, is on the run is because when he crashed the car, he crashed down a hill and into a house. And in this house was a woman and a child. Of course, he's delirious. He doesn't know what's going on. And fast forward that this child was kidnapped as ransom from some mafia people, right? So you kind of forget that plot, I certainly did. I mean, it didn't dawn on me that the kid had been kidnapped until the very end when he popped out. And I was like, oh crap, the kid, he's alive. And so John David's character's reaction at the end, I think that's when I bust out into tears. That's when the tears came out and I understood why his character had to go through everything that he had to go through to get to that moment, because that was the first moment that he breaks down, that he shows emotion, that he's able to express everything that he's been through. And man, I cried. How did that scene make you feel?
So that's when he was able to embrace his moment. And, you know, he says, I should have died, right?
Mm.
And then he looks at his hand and he sees the heart that his girlfriend drew on his hand earlier, like a couple of days ago. And then the kid comes out of the trunk, and it's as if he's like, why am I still alive? As if he was meant to stay alive to save this kid. And then he just exhales and looks up, and I was like, okay, you have become your own man. You are now out of your father's shadow right now. At that moment right there, it was a face I haven't seen him make yet in any of his movies, and that was a new look. And I was like, as if he'd been through enough.
Right.
You know, I've earned my stripes. So shout out to John for that. I mean, he really is. I think the future of Hollywood right now, a black Hollywood at least.
Black Hollywood. You actually bring up an excellent point, because in that moment, I sort of felt the chills of him arriving somewhere as an actor in that moment. It made me think of James Bond. It made me think of Jason Bourne, and now we have Beckett. Now, I don't know why my mind went there, but that, I think, to me, it says a lot about his dramatic abilities to bring a character like that home the way that he did. For me to even think of him in the same lines as characters of Bond and Bourne. Now, whether or not that was the intention, probably not. But I like that that's where my mind took me, as an ode to his performance. So,
Okay. Wow.
if you haven't seen Beckett on Netflix, check it out. Your boy John David Washington, he does a phenomenal job in my opinion. What would you give it out of it? 10, 1 out of 10?
You always ask me these things. I watched it again, so
Okay.
I'm gonna give it. I'll give it 7.5.
Ooh, why 7.5? What was lacking?
It took me a while to embrace his character that way, and so you go. I mean, even the start of the movie, you talked about that earlier. They even give you the music, like, oh, this is gonna be like a cool flick. You're chilling. It's a good soundtrack, and I'm like, what the hell happened?
Yeah, the
It
soundtrack
just
was dope.
Yeah, it flips you upside down. So I'm like, I'm in a really cool vibe. Like you could just chill at home, have a nice cocktail, relax, put your feet up. It was very jazzy and just chill. And I was
Yeah.
like, and then they just turned it all around, and I'm like, okay. So I wasn't expecting that, and you know, expect the unexpected, and so that took me for a turn. But I guess when I think of Greece, you never see that side of Greece, right? You always see the beautiful beaches of Greece, and that's normally represented. The oceans, and, you know, the lands and the beautiful white sands, all that stuff. So that's normally when you see Greece, and you got to see the terrain of Greece and just kind of walking through there. So for that, it was just a different trip. So you had to kind of, I took my jacket off and I undid my tie, but now I was like, ooh, let me put my jacket back on because they're gonna take me for a little ride here. So it was a good film. I liked it, you know, but I'll give it 7.5.
Okay. I'm between 8.5. Just because, and you made this point last night. We could have seen a little bit more of Alicia Vikander.
Yeah, that adds to my yeah.
Yeah, and Vicky Creeps. And I don't know, part of me would have wanted to see, Beckett after that, right? But then that's just my emotional
Beckett too saves all the children.
Right.
Forget Bourne, forget Bond.
Right. Beckett. And that's not far-fetched. And so we got into a very awesome conversation last night about John David Washington as an actor. So let's kind of segue to that really quick in comparison to his father. And I don't know that there really is a comparison. I think John David Washington is forging his own path. Because he has the chutzpah, right? Those genes have been passed down from his parents, and so he has the same range that his father has, that he's had, and so I'm curious to see where else he goes after this. What are your thoughts?
So here's the thing: Klansman is an autobiography, right? In a way. So I need to see at least a Malcolm X type performance, or at least a Hurricane type performance, and then I will give him that. But until I see that level, because the Hurricane is a deep film. Malcolm X, I mean, it has range, and the Hurricane has range. And so you watch those two films. I mean, you can never have seen Denzel on screen, and if you watch those two films, you're like, holy cow! I mean, it's a trip, and you're locked in with him. So I give him respect, but that's for me, Denzel. Those are his two best. I mean, I'm getting into Training Day or any other films that he did, but those two ones for me, like, if I tell anybody you want to watch a movie, if you're not into the politics of Malcolm X, watch The Hurricane. If you really want to see and learn about Malcolm X, then watch Malcolm X. You know, and so that's just for me his two best for me.
I think John David has certainly proved his marketability as a star in action films. So to your point, I would like to see a couple of more dramatic films.
Yeah.
Just to see how in depth he gets. But I also I believe he can pull it off, because in his role in Ballers, which to me was also kind of similar to his role in Malcolm and Marie. It was almost like the same guy, but elevated in terms of his delivery and his performance. So I think he's very capable of delivering a tour de force performance. It just has to be the right one. And I thought about this the other day. He reminds me, like, he's almost like a Black Tom Cruise. And when you think about Tom Cruise and factor in body build, stature, they're both like not little dudes, but they're both like small guys, right? Small, bulky guys. But their range as actors is so vast. And there's something about Beckett, not Beckett. There's something about John David Washington that puts me in the mind of Tom Cruise. And that's a compliment, in my opinion, as an actor.
You know what, I was gonna mention the height, and that's his I think his Achilles heel in a way, because it's hard to, even though some smaller actors have made amazing careers, I think it's hard. I mean, how many small Black actors have really taken the screen? I don't know. But excuse me?
There are a couple out there.
But I mean, not the level of like a Denzel and stuff like that. So it's a little hard, because we want to see someone that we look up at versus we're looking like eye level. So yeah. I mean, his dad. I mean, that plays to his favor, right? Just that height, and then now you have talent on top of that. So I think he has to work a little harder in a way. But I like that comparison. Okay.
That's not a bad
But
comparison.
the only thing is and that's about this movie too. What I respected about it is that we watched a movie before where the brother got out of the water and he was all chiseled up and all that stuff. And so now, like in 2021, if you take your shirt off or you're one moment you have a scene, everybody's got to be in this shape. But I love, he was like, you know what, I'm actually on vacation. I'm a normal guy. So a lot of people could relate to, like, hey, I'm just a normal guy. I'm going on this trip, and this just happened to happen, and it was part of my life. So it's definitely relatable in terms of, like, this could happen to any of us.
Yeah, I wouldn't have believed Beckett if he was cut up. Like,
right? Isn't that crazy how much that movie would have changed, right? If he's like just chiseled, you're like, well, now I expect him to beat everybody up and save all the kids,
Like, I couldn't have seen Michael B. Jordan in that role. I couldn't have seen
exactly. So Michael B. Jordan, now I expect something totally different. It's like he's so rough and just comes on the screen as like angry all the time. So now I have to really soften him up, and that's the range for John David Washington, is that he can be soft or hard, but I never see him on the screen as like intimidating. Whereas Michael B. Jordan, when he's on the screen, I'm like, oh, I know he's gonna come out aggressive. But then sometimes it's like, hey, how are you? So, but I always see him more of the aggressor first, just because of his body structure.
Yeah, I appreciate the fact that John David Washington won't be boxed into one genre. Much like his father, he will be spread across. And we talked about this last night, and then I had to go back and just kind of remind myself of Denzel Washington's filmography. And my God, it spans from drama to action to thrillers. Like, it's all over the place in the best way. So I certainly see his son doing the same thing. But I also get the vibe that John David Washington wants nothing to be like his father, right? In the sense that I am my own man, I am my own actor, and so you will recognize me based on my own merit, not because I am Denzel Washington's son. And I think he's doing that. He's doing that very well.
I think Klansman was the one for him though, because if you look at his Ballers, kind of like movies he's done and being on that show, he was like, hey, I can get a check and have a good time and I can get some movies. But I really think Klansman was like, wow, I can really, the potential I can really be, and now you really see his talents take off. But I think that movie really set the tone for him. Because before that, I was like, he's a good actor, but I didn't really look at him. He wasn't on my landscape of really new up-and-coming Black actors. But then when I saw Klansman, I was like, oh, wow. Right. Okay. All right. Let me put some respect on you. I'm sorry.
Put some respect on his name. And not a lot of people talked about Monsters and Men, which he was in, which he acted in. Like there are a couple of films he's also been in that haven't like caught on, but they're also pretty special because of him. So it's interesting what catches fire and what doesn't.
But also he's willing to take those risks, right?
Right.
And so that's huge because a lot of actors wouldn't do that in him coming up. So I think in his favor, he gets to take those risks on movies that maybe people won't see, but it's just, it's kind of like, if I'm doing off Broadway, I'm doing Shakespeare in the Park or something. I'm doing Shakespeare on Broadway. It's like, oh, wow, so-and-so's doing that? Yeah, I just want to work on my talents and my range.
And I wonder if that speaks to, again, going back to the point I just made, him being Denzel Washington's son. Like, I'm going to take whatever comes my way because I got something to prove. I want to do as much as I have to do to be seen in my own right. So that's an interesting thing. I'm a John David Washington fan. I hopped on his bandwagon since Ballers came out. Like he was the ish in Ballers to me. He held his own. He made that entire series, and I don't even know what happened to it. Is it ever coming back? Is it over? What happened to it?
No, I think it's still it's coming back. It's coming. I think they're doing one more season. I mean, that's easy money for The Rock. He's like, all right, let's check,
Yeah. Any last words before we wrap this up?
No, definitely check it out. Definitely check out Ellen's interview with the director. Are you going to get a chance to do? Have you ever interviewed John David Washington?
No, not yet.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, there you go. That's what we say on the show. Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
That's
okay, because that's going to be a good, interesting interview. I got a question for you to ask him.
Absolutely. Yeah, he seems pretty intense, which I love. I love those interviews that, you just zero in and have a good conversation. So shout out to Lisa May and Hakeem Graham for listening in and actually dropping a comment. Lisa May said, great interview with the director, by the way. Thank you. Hakeem, great to see you all. Great to see you too, Hak. Thank you for watching, and everyone else. We appreciate you tuning in. We are taking next Thursday off. We will be back the following Thursday, starting with the brand new season, since we are up to 30 episodes.
Ooh, 30. I mean, get balloons. 30 on the back, but
we have been busy.
That's Ellen's age. 30.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that out loud. Yeah. Anyway, so thank you for joining. Thank you for joining us. Have a good night, Ro. As always, I'll see you when I see you.
See you in 2 weeks. Be safe. Have fun and safe and happy Labor Day, everyone.
Oh, that's right. All right. I forgot. Bye. Bye, everyone.